Hi everyone, I'm Emer. Welcome to our Books at Bedtime session from Ashburn Library. This week we'll be reading chapters every evening from Wired Teeth by Oisin McGann, published by O'Brien Press. So, what's the book about? Crazy dentists, secret agents and remote-controlled braces. Jason McGinty's a bad kid, and his teeth are worse. The maddest, crookedest teeth you've ever seen. But it's when Jason gets computer-controlled braces that things get really weird. He starts hearing things and seeing things, and then the kids in his class start seeing them too. There's a new bully in school, and he's much, much worse than Jason. So, hope you're ready to go. Chapter 1. Terror in the Classroom. Jason McGinty was a bad kid, but his teeth were worse. At this moment, they were leering wickedly at an unfortunate fourth class pupil who had the bad luck to catch Jason's eye as he came out into the playground at break time. "What are you looking at?" Jason snarled, baring his horribly jagged, crooked teeth. "Nothing," the 10-year-old cowered. "I wasn't looking at anything." "You're looking at me now and you're talking to me. Did I say you could talk to me?" Jason persisted. The younger kid's mouth shut with a stifled squeak. "Answer me," Jason shouted. His victim went pale as he struggled to work out which was more likely to get him beaten up. Talking or not talking. He couldn't tell. Maybe both. Jason gave the younger boy another close look at his teeth and then shoved him backwards for good measure, sending him stumbling onto his backside. "Watch yourself in future," he snapped. "You're on my list now, right?" With that, he walked off to where his posse of mates were looking on in amusement. "You're in a bit of a mood, J.O., Vincent said to him. "What's got up your nose?" "Your bad breath, you smelly git," Jason retorted, and they all cackled noisily. That was his favourite sound, his mates laughing. And he made them laugh more than anyone else. He was the man. Nobody messed with Jason McGinty. But Vince was right. Jason was in a bit of a mood. In fact, that morning, Jason was being extra aggressive because he was scared. Scared like a little kid being chased by a big dog. He was getting a half day today. Normally that would be a good thing, a great thing, but not today. Because today he was going to see his orthodontist, a kind of dentist who straightened teeth. This was his third orthodontist to be exact. The first one had taken one look at Jason's teeth and had a nervous breakdown right there on the spot. The second one had nearly lost 2 fingers when Jason accidentally bit down during an examination. The man's sleeve had tickled his nose, making him sneeze, his fearsome array of teeth snapping closed like a bear trap. Jason's mother had rushed the unfortunate man to hospital, but he had made it clear he never wanted to see Jason or his teeth again. This third fellow, though, was different. He got giddy when he first saw Jason's teeth. The x-rays that showed these impossibly contorted molars, the twisted canines, the zigzag incisors, they brought an excited grin to the face of this orthodontist. And that worried Jason. Nobody else smiled when they looked at his teeth. When the bell rang at the end of break, all the children filed reluctantly back to their classrooms. Jason found his favourite victim, Finton, already sitting at his desk like the swot he was. Miss Taylor wasn't back from the staff room yet, so Jason seized the opportunity to grab Finton's pencil case, unzip it, and hurl its contents across the room. The large collection of pens, set squares, and carefully sharpened pencils scattered everywhere. His posse laughed harshly as they took their seats, watching Finton scamper around on the floor between the desks, trying to pick up his stuff. He was pushed and hustled as the other kids hurried to their desks. He kept his head down, trying not to show the hurt on his face. This was just another bit of hassle in a whole life full of hassle. "Get your act together, Finton," Vince called. "Honestly, you're so clumsy." "You'll need this, Finton." Jason waved the firefly pencil case. Finton straightened up and went to grab it, but he was too slow. Jason tossed it to Tony on the other side of the room. Tony waited for Finton to come after it, but Finton knew better by now. He humbly took his seat and laid the handful of pencils and pens out loose on his desk. His face was full and red like it was going to burst, and he was careful not to look at anybody else. The posse knew he wouldn't squeal on them. That was the beauty of it. He could seek the protection of the teacher, but the teacher couldn't be there all the time, and once she was out of sight, the lads would make it twice as bad for getting them in trouble. They'd really get nasty then. and squealing would lose him whatever respect he had left in the yard, so Fintan just shut up and took it like the good boy he was. Some of the other kids were laughing, mainly the posse. The rest just ignored him. "You're a funny man, Jason McGinty," Sonia Singh said. "Getting funnier every day," her twin sister Anita added. Jason turned to look at them. They were smiling, but not with proper smiles. They had this look on their faces like they knew something he didn't. They were always giving him that look. He never knew if they were taking the mickey out of him or not, and that really annoyed him. He shot an exaggerated frown at them, and they both crossed their eyes at him at exactly the same time. It was spooky how they could do that. He opened his mouth to make a smart remark, but Miss Taylor walked in just then, and he shut it again. The class was boring maths and then history until lunch. Jason sat through both lessons with his jaws clenched shut, unable to stop thinking about what was coming. Normally when the lunch bell rang, he was the first one out of his seat. This time it seemed to ring deep and slow like a funeral bell. He started to slowly put his things into his bag. The school secretary leaned in the door as the other children flooded out like a herd of miniature wildebeest. "Jason, your mother's here." Chapter 2. The Remote Control Contraption. Jason sat trembling with tension in Dr. Shapiro's waiting room. "There's nothing to worry about, Jason," his mother said. "Children get braces put on every day of the week, and he's supposed to be very good. That little girl from round the corner had her braces put on here, and look at her teeth now." Jason sniffed. That little girl from round the corner used to have buck teeth. He'd have given his right arm just to have buck teeth. She used to look like a rabbit. He looked like a shark that had been chewing on an iron bar. It wasn't the same thing. "You'll be fine," his mother reassured him. But she sounded almost as scared as he was. He thought about his hero, John Crater, from the Firefly films. He wouldn't have been scared of an orthodontist. Jason glanced uneasily towards the surgery door. The only thing was, John Crater had perfect teeth. The nurse came in, a clipboard in her hand, dressed in a clean white uniform. "Jason McGinty," she said, and a shiver ran down Jason's spine. He tried to act brave, he really did, but as he was led away from his mother, walking through the hallway and into the surgery, his breath was catching like he was going to cry and his legs were trembling. He'd been in the surgery once before, but that was just so Dr. Shapiro could have a look at him and make a mould of his teeth. That had been bad enough, the big lump of putty or whatever it was, filling his mouth and made him feel like he was choking. This time, the weird tooth fanatic was going to operate. Young Mr. McGinty," the orthodontist welcomed him with an eager smile. "Hop up on that seat there and let's get you sorted out." He was a pale, scrawny man with tufts of sandy-coloured hair and the smallest hands Jason had ever seen on an adult. His eyes were always open a little too wide. Jason took a deep breath and did as he was told. The seat was cool. Jason wished he had one at home for sitting in while he was playing his games. The rest of the room gave him the creeps. It was mostly like a dentist surgery, with the tools and the lamps and the masks for the laughing gas, which made him uncomfortable as it was. But there was some bizarre-looking machines sitting around on the counters too. Stuff he hadn't seen in the other orthodontist surgeries. Stuff that looked like Shapiro had invented it himself. Jason's teeth were chattering as he lay back in the chair. "That's it," the man said gently, leaning over him and switching on the big angle poise lamp. "Now, open wide." Jason did as he was told. Dr. Shapiro managed to get both of his miniature hands into Jason's mouth as he poked and prodded around. Jason could tell he was really excited. Good, he said to himself. Jason wondered what was so good about it. "Right, well, I think it's time to get started," the orthodontist said, standing up straight again and picking up some tools. Hard, sharp, thin, steel tools. "As you know, you have a rather unusual dental profile, and I just don't think the standard train tracks would do the job. A little bit too conventional. I think this calls for something special, a little contraption I've come up with myself. I love that word, contraption. Don't you?" No, Jason didn't like it. It made him want to wet himself with terror. "This won't hurt too much," Shapiro said softly. "Here, bite down on this." He stuck something in Jason's mouth, and when Jason bit down, there was a snapping noise. Jason yelped as he felt something grip his teeth. No need to worry, Shapiro assured him. That's just the frame. Here we go now. And then he began his work. He explained everything as he did it, and despite the abject fear of the ordeal, Jason found the man's voice comforting. And when Shapiro wasn't talking, he hummed to himself, interrupted every now and again by a grunt, but he had to twist or tighten something. First he attached an anchor point to each tooth, carefully cementing each into place in much the same way that Jason put together his model airplanes. Then he wound sturdy pieces of wire through them, tightening them like guitar strings, testing them, adjusting them, taking them out, putting them back in. When he had properly tuned, he used a screwdriver to turn something along the inside of Jason's cheek, and the wires suddenly constricted all around his teeth at once. By now, Jason was nearly in tears, and he could feel the tension spread from his jaw up into his head. It will feel a bit tight to begin with, but you'll get used to it, Dr. Shapiro said. And you won't have to wear those silly straps around your head at night, like with some braces. No, these are state-of-the-art. You see, these are smart braces. He opened up a laptop computer and showed Jason the screen. A microprocessor in the braces reads how much tension is needed from 1 minute to the next and sends the information to this computer. Here are your teeth on screen, see? Jason nodded, fascinated despite the pain. He could see a computer image of his teeth on the screen with the braces around them. It was like looking at a ghostly green skull. The computer takes that information, Shapiro went on, and sends commands to the braces when they're too loose or causing you too much pain, etc., etc., so they work with maximum efficiency. So my braces are on a remote control? Jason asked, wincing as the words made his jaw ache. Precisely, Shapiro smiled. It's amazing what we can do with computers these days. When they got home, Jason's mother let him watch 2 Firefly films on DVD to help him forget the discomfort of the braces. Still took him a long time to get to sleep that night. His jaw hurt and he spent a long time looking in the mirror before going to bed. Half of him hated what he saw. The other half relished the thought of going into school looking like a monster, like one of the villains from Firefly. But he remembered all the kids he'd slagged for having train track braces and knew they'd be laughing at him tomorrow. Jason lay awake, thinking about what he would have to do to stop them laughing.